aspect of Islam that it's something they all practice, we all bring into our lives. And that is the concept of barakah, concept of blessings, having a blessed life. Barakah is a very important concept, and it's something that everyone can experience. Everyone, with just a little bit of effort, can experience barakah in their life. So let's begin with a discussion on what is barakah. What does this word mean? We hear it all the time, right? When someone says there's no barakah in time, or they say there's too much barakah in the food, right? It's a word we use all the time. What does barakah mean? Barakah translates as blessings. And it essentially means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts more goodness and value and abundance into something than seems logically possible. In a way, barakah is a karama. It is a miracle that Allah gives to whom He wills. And it is one of those karamats or miracles that almost anyone can experience. We know a certain level of miracle you can only experience when you are pious, right? Barakah isn't only for the pious. Anyone who asks Allah for barakah can experience barakah in their life. Now some of us, we may think of barakah as relates only to money, right? We think money can have barakah. And when you think about barakah, we think only about our money having barakah. But in reality, barakah can be in anything. In anything. You can have barakah in your money, in your wealth, which means, for example, you may not earn much, but you and your family are able to live comfortably off it. And you are content and you are satisfied, you don't owe anyone any money, you don't have any problems. There is barakah in that money. You could have barakah in your time, where you spend an hour doing so much work that it takes other people an entire week to do the same. Or you do so much work in 1 year, it takes people 10 years to do the same. This is barakah in time. We see this with many of the righteous predecessors. There are people whose books that we read today that lived 1,000 years ago. I'll give you an example, Imam an-Nawawi. Imam an-Nawawi actually passed away at a very young age. He didn't live in this world for a very long time. He lived a very short life, right? Yet he has written books like multiple volumes, like 20-volume books on fiqh, on hadith. And you wonder, how did he write so much? Right? Another example of that would be At-Tabari. At-Tabari has written some of the longest books of tafsir and history. He didn't live that long. There was barakah in what he did. Sometimes barakah can be in the effects of a project. Right? That someone could write something short. Doesn't take them much time. Maybe, somebody just wrote a brief article or a booklet. It took them 1 day to write it. Yet 1,000 years later, people are still benefiting from it. This is barakah in one's efforts. You do something small, it has a ripple effect for centuries and keeps coming back into your account as good deeds. So barakah can come in many ways. And if we go back to the first generation, one of the best examples of barakah from the first generation is Anas ibn Malik, radiyallahu anhu. Who was Anas ibn Malik? And what was the barakah he experienced? Anas ibn Malik was from the Ansar. He was from the people of Medina. He was only 10 years old when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam moves to Medina. Anas ibn Malik's mother, Sulaim, sends Anas to work for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for 10 years. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he lives next to the Masjid al-Nabawi, and just across the road from him is the house of Sulaim, and every day she would send her son Anas across the road to spend time with the Prophet ﷺ, to accompany him, to help him with his work. And so he spends 10 years in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And all his mother asks for in return is one thing. She said, "Oh Rasulullah, make dua for my son. Make dua for my son." And there's different versions of the dua that are narrated. The one in Sahih Muslim goes as follows. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made dua for Anas ibn Malik and said, "Allahumma kthir malahu wa waladahu وَبَارِكْ لَهُ فِيهِ." Oh Allah, give him a lot of money and a lot of children and put barakah in it. Very beautiful dua. The dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for Anas ibn Malik. Give him a lot of wealth and a lot of children and put barakah in it. Put barakah in his wealth and in his children. Another version of the dua said, "Oh Allah, give him barakah in his wealth, his children, and his life." Anas ibn Malik's life becomes one of barakah. His life itself becomes a miracle. It becomes a proof of prophethood. Rasulullah sallallahu made this dua for him, and his dua comes true. How? Anas ibn Malik lives to be like 120. He lives longer than almost any other Sahabi. Right? He lives all the way past 100 years. He becomes, at one point in time, the last Sahabi still teaching, when it's still 100 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes away. There's barakah in his life. He lives a long life. But it's not just a long life, it's a productive life. He is amongst the top 4 narrators of hadith. Right? He spends his life teaching hadith. He has barakah in his children. It is narrated when Anas ibn Malik was an old man and he'd be walking to the masjid, there would be like 100 men walking behind him. And people would ask, "Are those his students?" And people would say, "No, those are his sons and grandsons." 100 descendants. And they weren't just average descendants. These were scholars of hadith. These were warriors. These were businessmen. These were the leaders of the community. The descendants of Anas ibn Malik. And he had barakah in his wealth. He had such barakah in his wealth that it is narrated that whenever somebody in Medina wanted to open a business, they'd ask Anas ibn Malik to be a silent partner in their business. To basically just invest a little bit in the business. Because any business that Anas ibn Malik would invest in would become profitable. This was the barakah of his wealth. Allah blessed him with such barakah in his wealth, any business he invested in would become profitable. And so he lived a long life, with a lot of wealth, and a lot of children, and a lot of good deeds. And this is the effects of the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A dua for what? Barik lahu fi. Give him barakah in all of this. And so today I want to share with you a few simple tips, things we all can do, that will bring barakah into our lives. It can bring barakah into our general life, into our marriages, into our family life, into our work, into our money, into our projects, into everything. A few simple tips. Number one, live a life that is pleasing to Allah. At the end of the day, only Allah can give you barakah. He is the source of barakah. If you are living a life of sin, and you're asking why I don't have barakah in my life, well, the answer is right there. You choose to live a life that attracts the opposite of barakah. Remember, righteousness attracts barakah. Sin robs your life of barakah. It's the same with wealth, right? That earning halal puts barakah in the wealth. Earning haram removes the barakah from the wealth. So, the number one tip, the simplest tip, strive to live a life that is pleasing to Allah, and that itself will bring barakah into your life. Number two, in everything you do, have ikhlasun niyah. Have good intentions. Start a project with good intentions, Allah will put barakah in the project. Too often, we start projects without really figuring out our intentions. And sometimes we have wrong intentions. We do things for ego, we do things for fame, we do things for money, we do things to give ourselves a power boost. So from the very beginning, there's no barakah in the project because we're doing it for the wrong reasons. Start with the right reasons. Whatever you do with your life, do it for the sake of Allah. Whatever you do with your life, do it with noble intentions. If you start something with a good intention, Allah will put barakah in it. The third rule, a very simple rule. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has put barakah in the early hours of this ummah. Allah has put barakah in the early hours of this ummah. Meaning what? Start your day early. Start your day early. Those early hours, tahajjud time, fajr time, and an hour or two after fajr, that time is the most blessed time of the day. For worshipping Allah, for studying, for doing good deeds, for writing a book, for thinking, for meditation, for contemplation, for anything. Wake up early and take advantage of those hours. Even if it's to worship Allah. That worship of Allah in those hours puts barakah in the rest of your day. Some people feel like to get barakah in your day, you have to do your work at that time. No, you don't have to do your work at that time. If you work 8 to 5, you work 8 to 5, right? But you can still use those early hours to worship Allah, to make dua, to do istighfar, to work on a side project, to sit and think. Nowadays we don't think enough. Just sit and think. When it's quiet and the noise is gone and you're not distracted, to sit and do some self-reflection. Take advantage of the early hours, and you will find barakah in your entire day. Another simple tip for barakah is what I spoke about 4 weeks ago. And a few weeks ago I spoke about balancing contentment and ambition. This is one of the ways to attract barakah into your life. Be ambitious in your goals. Be ambitious in your pursuits. But at the end of the day, be content for whatever you earn for that day. This balance brings about barakah. Ambition will make you work hard. Contentment will make you find inner peace. Working hard while having inner peace is what brings barakah into your life. And so try to find balance between contentment and ambition. Another important tip to attract barakah into your life: focus on the quality of your work, don't focus on the end result. A very important principle. The results of anything are not in our hands. The results of anything are not in our hands. It's all qadr Allah. If you start a business, it is the qadr of Allah whether that business does well or not. If you start a job, it's the qadr of Allah whether you excel at that job or not. Right? In anything you do, the results are dependent on Allah. Allah's not going to ask you about the results. Allah's going to ask you about your efforts. So instead of focusing on the results and being stressed out about the results and having anxiety about the results, focus on what is within your control, which is doing the best job possible. In every aspect of your life, do the best job possible. If sometimes, for example, parenting, sometimes we're so stressed out about what our child is going to grow up to be, that we don't focus on here and now. Don't be stressed out about 5, 10, 20 years down the line. Focus on doing a quality job now. So whatever happens down the line, you know, I did my best. And doing your best is what brings barakah into your life, in every aspect of your life. And so focus on being your best, on doing your best, on putting ihsan into everything you do, and this will attract barakah into your life. The next step, one we all should know and we all should be practicing: be generous. Live a life of generosity and you will attract barakah into your life and everything. And most of us already know this about money, but it's a reminder we all need. The more you give, the more you get. Right? This is the barakah of money. Your zakah, your sadaqah, your gifts, whatever it is that you are giving, it always comes back to you multiple times over. You want barakah in your wealth? Never be stingy. Never be miserly. Just focus on being the best that you can in terms of generosity. But generosity is not only with our wealth. Be generous with your time. Be generous with your efforts. Be generous with your knowledge. Give, and Allah will give you more. This is a primary principle of barakah. You want barakah in anything, share it with others. And finally, to attract barakah into our lives, a very important tip: make sure you maintain family ties. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever wants to live a long life and have a lot of wealth should strive to maintain family ties. So Rasulullah ﷺ attached barakah in one's life and wealth to the maintenance of family ties. We live in a time where people cut off ties too easily. The smallest of arguments and people don't talk to their siblings or their parents anymore. Always work on creating muhabba, love in the household. And again, when we talk about family, we're not just talking about the Western concept of a nuclear family. That's alien to Islam. No. When we say maintain family ties, we mean with as many people as possible. If you can maintain family ties with your cousin's cousin, that's even more barakah for you. If you can maintain family ties with your grandfather's cousin's granddaughter, there's more family ties for you, there's more barakah for you. As big a circle as possible, maintaining good relationships with as many relatives as possible will bring more and more barakah into your life. So these are some simple tips that all of us can practice. Nothing that's beyond our abilities. And each of these help us to have a blessed life. To repeat, live a life that is pleasing to Allah. Always have good intentions. Wake up early. Be content yet ambitious. Focus on the quality of your work. Be generous with your time, money and knowledge. And maintain family ties. If we do all of this, then inshallah, we will experience barakah in our lives, in our wealth, in our homes, in everything that we do. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من صلى عليه واحدة صلى الله عليه عشرة. To conclude today's discussion, I want to share with you 3 simple acts of worship that we can all do hundreds of times throughout the day. These 3 acts of worship bring barakah to your life. Simple things. Number 1, everything you do begin with Bismillah. Anything that the name of Allah is recited upon will be blessed. There are many benefits to starting every action with Bismillah. And we know in our religion we are taught to say Bismillah before you eat, to say Bismillah before you sleep, to say Bismillah even before you are intimate with your spouse. Every halal action begins with the name of Allah. And when you begin an action with the name of Allah, you bring barakah into that action. Right? In everything that you do. So let's make this a habit. Let's make it a habit that throughout our day, everything we do, we say Bismillah. To such an extent that if you are a businessman, for every single sale, say Bismillah. A customer comes to you, say Bismillah before you start ringing them up. Barakah in that sale. You open your shop in the morning, say Bismillah when opening your shop. Put barakah into your shop. Let us begin every single action throughout the day with Bismillah. Number 1, this keeps us conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, it stops us from doing wrong actions, right? Because you're not going to say Bismillah before doing something bad. Number 3, it puts barakah in all of those actions. You're starting a long-term project that's going to take you many years. As you take that first step, writing out that first draft, working on that first template, say Bismillah. Begin everything in the name of Allah, and there will be blessings in it. The second act of worship, a simple thing you can do throughout the day many times, that brings barakah into your actions. Ask Allah for barakah. Make dua. We go back to what we mentioned at the beginning of the first khutbah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made dua to Allah for Anas ibn Malik. Barik lahu fi. Put barakah in all of this for him. So we too, make dua for barakah. Think about it. What is the dua we make for people when they get married? Ask Allah to put barakah in their marriage and the children that they produce from their marriage. Right? Go back and read the dua and read the translation. You're literally asking Allah to put barakah in the marriage and what the marriage produces. It's the same for the dua before being intimate with your spouse. You're asking Allah, you're starting with Bismillah, and you're asking Allah to put barakah in whatever children you'll produce together. We ask Allah for barakah, we will get barakah. Many people don't ask Allah for barakah. We don't make enough dua. If you feel you don't have barakah in time, ask Allah for barakah in your time. If you feel you don't have barakah in your money, ask Allah. Only Allah can give you barakah. Only Allah can bless your time and your wealth. So are we asking Him? Are we making this dua? Are we making dua for barakah in our children, in our lives, in our wealth, in our time? Or are we just complaining there's no barakah in time, there's no barakah in money? Stop complaining and start asking Allah. The believer does not complain to other people, they ask Allah. Finally, a simple tip for attracting barakah into your life. A very simple act of worship that we all can do throughout the day. Send abundant salawat and durood upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Man salla alayya wahida sallallahu alayhi ashara. Whoever sends blessings upon me once, Allah sends blessings upon him 10 times. Every time you send salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah rewards you with 10 times barakah. Now imagine you do this over and over again throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the year. Salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one of the most important du'as you can make, because you are making du'a for the beloved of Allah, and in return Allah blesses you with barakah in everything that you have. And so we know today is the day of Friday, and it is from the sunnah that on the day of Jummah we increase in our salawat. Then we send salutations upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even more. So let us build these habits. These are all simple habits. They're all habits of the tongue. They're all things that you have to say. They don't take more than a few seconds. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to say Bismillah before you start an action. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to say, oh Allah put barakah in this project. Put barakah in my time. Put barakah in my children. It takes a few seconds to make these du'as. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It doesn't. So let us fill our days with these du'as and with these acts of ibadah and with these important and blessed statements, because these are things that bring barakah to your life. And if you meet people who live a life that is blessed, you will find that they have these habits. It is a very consistent thing throughout the world. When you meet somebody who has a blessed life, you will find it to be from the people who are generous, from the people who maintain family ties, from the people who begin everything with Bismillah, from the people who make abundant dua, from the people who love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and send salawat upon him. These are consistent practices that you will find in the lives of anyone you meet who seems to have a blessed life. So if we want barakah in our lives, if we want a blessed life, if we want a life where Allah is taking care of us and He's putting extra blessings in everything that we do and everything that we say and everything that we produce, then there are very simple steps to doing so. And if we take these simple steps, then we too can experience karamat, we can experience these miracles from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of barakah in our wealth, barakah in our families, barakah in our time, barakah in our projects, barakah in everything we do. We end by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put barakah in our lives, to put barakah in our children, to put barakah in our wealth, to put barakah in our projects, to put barakah in everything that we do and everything that we say, and to make us from the people who are blessed. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وأغننا بفضلك عمن سواك اللهم انصر المجاهدين في فلسطين اللهم انصر المستضعفين في فلسطين اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. أقم الصلاة.